been publicly offending extremely religious people for many years now, well over a decade, and I've recently noticed an interesting parallel that I wanted to share with you. Way back in the mid-2000s, drawings of Muhammad were a really big deal. Now, according to YouTube's analytics, about 12% of you weren't even born yet. So let me explain what happened. Ever since September 11th, 2001, Islamic terrorism has been a hot topic. Islam is what's known as aniconic, meaning that images of important religious figures like Muhammad are avoided and in some cases prohibited entirely in order to avoid idolatry, the worshiping of the image instead of the deity behind it. Some Muslims treat this as a serious prohibition, even for non-Muslims, which resulted in an ongoing worldwide discussion over whether secular institutions should censor themselves to avoid offending those Muslims, or even if artists are self-censoring out of fear of reprisal from violent Muslim extremists. The threats on Salman Rushdie's life, the murder of people like Dutch filmmaker Theo van Gogh, gave those fears real credence. You know, Van Gogh was shot and partially beheaded by a Dutch-Moroccan Islamist terrorist who objected to a short film that he made with Ayaan Hirsi Ali criticizing Islam's treatment of women. A conservative newspaper wanted to explore the issue of self-censorship in regards to Islam. So they asked their network of artists if anyone wanted to draw Muhammad. Several people volunteered, and so their depictions of the Prophet appeared in the September 30th, 2005 edition of the paper, along with an editorial decrying the special consideration they thought Muslims were demanding to be free of ridicule. This went about as well as you might expect in that climate. There were boycotts, threats, mass protests around the world, some of which turned violent, leading to hundreds of deaths. Other newspapers reporting on this incident had to decide whether or not to show the cartoons at the center of the controversy. Most did not, although the French satirical paper Charlie Hebdo did, which landed them, the editors of that paper, on an Islamist hit list and resulted in them needing to fight for their right to publish this stuff in a court of law, which they won. In 2006, Trey Parker and Matt Stone wanted to comment on the idea of terroristic censorship with a South Park storyline in which Cartman tries to get Family Guy canceled by stoking fears of Muslim retaliation to an upcoming episode of Family Guy that would feature the Prophet Muhammad. Kyle convinces the network executives at Fox to air the episode and not give in to terrorists demanding censorship. At the end of that storyline, they show Muhammad, but in real life, the executives at Comedy Central, the network where South Park aired, censored that scene, showing only a black screen describing what happened. Now we jump to 2010. The 200th and 201st episodes of South Park featured another storyline in which a bunch of celebrities, including Tom Cruise, demand to see the Prophet Muhammad so that they can harness his power of remaining free from insult. Muhammad is depicted in this episode hiding inside of a bear suit and then later behind a big censored box. In between the airing of those two episodes, Muslim extremists warned Parker and Stone that they were going to end up like Theo van Gogh. South Park Studios and Comedy Central employees were also threatened. The NYPD beefed up their presence at the network. All of this led Comedy Central to bleep out every reference to Muhammad in episode 201, along with one comically long bleep to censor several ending monologues describing the moral of the story, which was that we shouldn't cave in to threats of violence by censoring ourselves or others. Parker and Stone were understandably pissed about this, but there wasn't much they could do. Comedy Central never re-aired episode 201, and I don't even think it's available on streaming sites to this day, though someone did manage to leak the uncensored version if you'd like to go pirate that. The uproar surrounding all of this led to efforts like Everybody Draw Muhammad Day, which was started by an artist who said she wanted to make a statement about freedom of speech. And she wanted to encourage enough people to participate so that, the terrorists can't possibly kill all of us. But after desperately courting as much media attention as possible, she started getting death threats and she got scared and said she no longer supported the idea or wanted anything to do with it. Yeah, I know. It's just layers upon layers of sad irony. At this point, the question wasn't just, are people self-censoring out of fear, but also, should people self-censor when it's not just them who are being threatened? Stone and Parker might choose to take on the risk of Muslim extremism, and, they've got the money for the security against it, maybe. But what about all of the people working as production staff at South Park Studios? What about the thousands of people working for Comedy Central or the cable networks that air the show? Is it right to put them at risk or force them to quit their jobs for this ideal? 5 years after that episode, the terrorists caught up with Charlie Hebdo, the French satirical paper that published those images of Muhammad. In 2015, 2 terrorists did manage to force their way into the paper's office, and they murdered 12 people and injured 11 more. And the very first victim of that incident was a maintenance worker who happened to be sitting at the reception desk when the terrorists walked in. With that in mind, was Comedy Central right or wrong to censor that South Park? I don't know. I don't think it's a question that has a simple answer. I talked about all this stuff back when it was happening, and I've always been vehemently against Muslim extremism. I've been in favor of efforts like Everybody Draw Muhammad Day, and I've often leaned more towards being critical of Comedy Central's actions and the actions of others who censor in the face of this extremism. Yet still, over the years, every single time I wrote a blog post or made a video that was critical or mocking of Christianity, there was a high likelihood that at least one Christian would comment something along the lines of, "You wouldn't dare say this about Islam because you're too scared." Or, "You're lucky we Christians are so much better and more peaceful than those Muslim terrorists." And it's those comments that I'm thinking about today after the retailer Target announced that they would be pulling some of their Pride merchandise celebrating LGBTQ plus people and relocating it to the back of some stores following violence and threats of further violence on the part of Christians. Since introducing this year's collection, we've experienced threats impacting our team members' sense of safety and well-being while at work. Given these volatile circumstances, we are making adjustments to our plans, including removing items that have been at the center of the most significant confrontational behavior. Homophobic and transphobic Christians have knocked down pride displays at some stores, angrily approached workers, and posted threatening videos on social media from inside the stores. And I'll give you just one example of a guy who actually filmed himself harassing Target employees and shoppers, and then had the complete lack of self-awareness to upload this to the internet because he thinks it makes him look good. I'm showing this one because it has birthed us a new queen to pay tribute to. Watch and enjoy.
They're gonna call the cops on you.
Oh, I hope they do. Hey, do you guys support the satanic pride propaganda?
Yeah, both.
You support it?
Satan and pride.
You support Satan?
Mm-hmm.
What's God gonna think of that?
I don't believe in God.
Wow. So you think?
Did you need help with something?
You support the propaganda that's targeting the kids?
There's nothing targeting kids.
It's all over kids' TV shows. It's all over. They're targeting the kids.
Kids can choose to wear whatever they want.
Do you support the sexualization of kids through pride propaganda by corporate?
Sir, is there something that we can help you with?
I'm just asking people questions. What about you, sir? Do you support this?
I'm not answering any questions, but if you're here to cause any disturbance in the store...
I'm just asking questions. Do you work for the Target?
Disrupting.
Do you work
yes,
for Target?
I do, actually.
Where's your name tag?
I am the undercover loss prevention.
Oh, okay.
So...
I'm just asking questions. So do you support this satanic propaganda?
I'm not answering your questions. What you need to do is you either need to leave the store...
God will judge you guys.
Okay.
I mean, I can't. You won't if I don't believe in it.
My God, someone give that woman a raise. Anyway, it seems that mainstream Christians have finally decided to dismount their high horses and join the other religions' extremists in using violence to get what they want. Now, there's a chance that Target's corporate leadership is lying, that they're not actually concerned about the safety of their employees, but they're actually concerned for their bottom line, that they're hoping to avoid a large-scale boycott by backing off a bit on the whole everyone deserves love and respect deal. But as Christian white supremacists, misogynists, and homophobes become more mainstream with their messages regularly appearing on Fox News and now even CNN, we're going to see more and more violence that isn't just directed at schools full of children or random nightclubs full of queer people. We may very well see that violence coalescing on large corporations to enact broader change in the same way we saw Islamic terrorists achieve success, which is what's happening. It's beginning to happen at Target. Bigots could have simply boycotted them like they are doing with Bud Light, but as a retailer open to the public, Target is an easy entry point for bigots to just walk in and start harassing people or destroying merchandise. It's a good target, so to speak, for graduating people from stochastic terrorism into real life actual terrorism. That's why we have to pay attention to what's happening, and we have to decide how we're going to fight it and what we expect of companies when it comes to standing up to it. I don't want minimum wage Target employees to be on the front lines against anti-LGBTQ terrorists, but I also don't want Target executives to give into that terrorism and thus encourage them. I suppose what I want is for Target to spend some small portion of their billions of dollars increasing security and trespassing out, arresting, and prosecuting bigots who come in to make trouble. And then I want them to spend another tiny little portion of their billions of dollars supporting LGBTQ organizations in their communities, or at least what's left of their communities after big box stores decimated them, in order to help those marginalized people feel safe and to educate others. I know that they're already doing some of that. Why not more? And then to top it off, just for a little cherry on top, spend another portion of their billions of dollars supporting politicians who will unseat the guys who are passing laws banning books and trying to outlaw pronouns. Will that happen? No, probably not, because it's easier and cheaper to reduce merchandise and move it to the back of the store and continue trying to stop workers from unionizing. And in the meanwhile, those good Christian bigots will learn that terrorism works, that they enjoy doing the terrorism, and that they enjoy reading the celebratory comments on those videos they're posting on social media. And then at some point, they're going to decide to move on to even more effective forms of terrorism, like firebombing a Budweiser factory. And what are we going to do then? Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.